Sir, I saw a recent video on YouTube about Ukraine and Russia war. You said, "Dunya bal pe chalti hai." You need power to live in this world. So, as a conscious man or a woman, as an individual person, how we should respond to this? Like people are comparing Mahabharat to Ukraine and Russia war. They are not getting into the centers of the war. They are comparing Arjun and Putin, the president of Russia, like they are two same persons. And we are seeing like so much false information in media also. Mahabharat in Ukraine fasa Mahabharat, like that. Kurukshetra, comparing these two different phenomena. Please give some clarity on
No,
this.
read up. You need to know the facts. Read up. Read a lot. Where does Ukraine come from? How did the Ukrainian people get assimilated in the Soviet Union? What has been the relationship of the Russian people with the Ukrainian people? Why do parts of Ukraine tilt towards Russia and other parts tilt more towards Europe on the western border, that is? So these are the things that you have to read up. Otherwise, I don't see how you can compare one living character to some mythological character. This is new to me, somebody comparing Putin to Arjun, and I'm struggling to see how the comparison can be made, on what grounds. But how do you do that? How much do you know of Putin? And if you don't know of him, how do you compare him to Arjun? How can you not compare him to Vidur or Dhritarashtra, even to Shikhandi? I don't know. If you just have to randomly create analogies, then random comparisons galore. I don't see. I mean, Arjun and Putin, how? I don't see. There is no Krishna that I can see. Arjun was on the feebler side, and here you have Russia, the largest country. Arjun never had the throne or the crown, and Putin is in power de facto since more than 20 years now. Either directly or indirectly. So, all these things happen only when we do not know.
Sir, as you always said, Adhyatmik Vyakti befazul yuddh nahi ladta. So how should a conscious man should respond to this? Like these words and all
To
this.
respond to anything, first of all, you need to know what that thing is. Do you know what that war is all about? How much do you know of the war? A war is not just something from the video games, where one party randomly picks up a gun and starts shooting at others. A war has an entire context to it. A war is much more than what the little media nuggets show to you. We live in headlines, no? Breaking news. That important nuclear reactor has been bombed, and that's all that we know of. You need to go deeply into it. There is no substitute to real knowledge. Most people who are so eager to comment on this war will probably fail to even locate Ukraine quickly on the map. So much for knowledge. Some of them will try to probably look for Ukraine on the Korean side. Russia is a vast country, you see. Somebody will mistake Mongolia for Ukraine. And they'll say, oh, that's the reason why China is so much in the picture. What do we know? Without knowing, it really amazes me, how do we manage to hold opinions? Opinions without knowledge? Maya is awesome. No? Opinions, and opinions galore. Everybody has an opinion. Somebody likes Putin, somebody is saying NATO must start bombing, somebody is saying, Biden must use his hypersonic nuclear arsenal. There are people who are saying India must intervene now and catch both of these by their ears and make them do sit-ups. Because India is anyway the most important country in the world, you see. And if our Prime Minister wants, any war can start or stop. What do you know? I'm not against opinions, I'm against ignorance. What do you know? How much effort have you spent in reading? And these days a new trend is emerging. Instead of really reading, we watch cheap YouTube bullets. Somebody comes and packs a pill and you swallow it. And what has that person done? That person has read the bullet points from Wikipedia and something else from some other cheap place. And he packages it with a bit of humor and spice and nonsense and creates a 14-minute video. Everything that you need to know about the Russia-Ukraine war, a 14-minute video. And that video gets 15 lakh views. And you think you are now an expert on European geopolitics. I watched a 14-minute video. And this trend is gaining huge momentum. There are people who have made a life out of this. Something is happening in the world, they would read up from the Wikipedia, then create a 14-minute video, and the entire country feels illuminated. Now we know everything. Sometimes it's a 4-minute video. In 4 minutes, you have been enlightened. The Buddha is wincing. Which of these videos have you watched? There are several such channels. They have followers in millions. They specialize in bringing this kind of knowledge to you. And they are specialists in everything. You talk to them about COVID vaccines, they'll tell you everything in 4 minutes. You talk to them about the Mauryan Empire, they will know everything. It's just that most of these people cannot clear even UPSC prelims. But their general awareness, they claim, is tremendous from Wikipedia. And then you listen to them and you come and say, oh, Putin is Arjun. Putin is Arjun. Right. Imran Khan must be Bhim then. Huh? And my evil mind is continuously thinking of Draupadi. Do not forget that we have a lady as the vice president of the most important country in the world. Any comparison, any random absurd comparison. This is this, this is that, this is that. What kind of? Without knowing anything. Read a lot. Knowledge really is power, believe me. Knowledge really is power. And do not go by cheap opinions, popular trends, and bullet videos. Knowledge is sacred, very sacred.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Prasad Racharla. The question says, Namaskar Acharyaji, when there was a discussion regarding Ukraine and Russia, what I had in my mind was that I don't have knowledge, information on current affairs, social activities in the world. Even if someone tries to come and tell these things to me, I ignore and concentrate on my work, and I continue with my work. I feel that the work that I do is more important than all these global affairs. I understand that even if I don't have information on current affairs, it's fine, because even if I have some info, it would not even be 1% of what is actually happening there. Even if I know of 100 events, there would still be the 101st event happening somewhere I won't know of. So I conclude that self-work is much more important, and only that much of worldly knowledge is needed that enables me to do my own work. Is my understanding correct? To the extent that it tells me of your devotion to your work, to that extent I admire what you have written. That you want to be so solely immersed in your work. I don't know what your work is. I hope it's a noble work. That you want to not just be immersed, you want to be marinated in your work. You want to soak in your work, so that you don't need to know of anything. And that's honorable. If you can come to that state where the world does not matter to you at all, and where your work proceeds in isolation, wonderful. But now here starts the problem. It is very difficult to do anything in this world that is totally independent of what is happening elsewhere in the world. At a micro level, yes, that is something you can enjoy for a while. Let's say you make pots, and you may very well say that how does the Russia-Ukraine thing affect my work? I make great pots, and I put spiritual quotes on the pots, mugs, jugs, containers that I make. Mine is a beautiful work dedicated to the truth. I don't need to be bothered about Afghanistan or Ukraine. You can say that, and what you are saying will serve you indeed for a while. But a point will come when this kind of watertight separation between the global happenings and your micro field of work will no more be sustainable. right? So as long as you can continue to celebrate in your isolation, wonderful, but you won't be able to sustain it for long, because everything is related definitely to everything else. One day a bomb may shatter all your pots, and probably you may like to know where the bomb came from. Not just the plane that dropped the bomb or the country that dropped the bomb, but the human instinct that dropped the bomb. So investigating these global affairs or the social happenings around you is a good way to come to know of the human mind. That's the reason why you must have knowledge. The Upanishads put it very unambiguously. The one who has worldly knowledge but no self-knowledge falls in a deep well. And that's the verse you seem to have taken to heart. The one who has worldly knowledge but no self-knowledge falls into a well. So good, so far. And then the very next verse, it says, the one who has self-knowledge without worldly knowledge falls into a well even deeper. Lot of self-knowledge, no worldly knowledge. The rishis are cautioning, you will fall into a well even deeper. And then they say that the one who has both self-knowledge as well as worldly knowledge crosses over death and attains immortality. Which means now nothing can hurt you or harm you or obliterate you. Right? When you take these verses together, do you know what you see? You see that the rishis are saying that even self-knowledge is impossible in absence of worldly knowledge, because the self is nothing but an extension of the world. The self and the world are one thing. They are mirror images. Similarly, the world is but a reflection of the self. How will you know the world if you do not know the self? So to the scientists, the rishis of the Upanishads will say, "O scientist, have some self-knowledge." Because you can never be a good scientist if you do not have self-knowledge. And to the spiritual seeker, the meditator, the rishis will say, "Son, do not just sit enclosed in your dark cave, in your internal world. See how the world lives, have knowledge, know the ways of the world, see how the institutions operate, see how societies live, see how communities interact with each other, see how nations behave with each other, see how men and women behave with each other, see how history unfolds." When you know of all these, then self-knowledge becomes easier. Therefore, you must have both. When you have both, then you cannot be terrified. You cannot be deluded.